In 1901, two Cambridge-educated researchers spent years documenting something impossible: the exact colors and shapes that human thoughts create when they leave your mind. What they discovered is now being confirmed by modern electromagnetic field research. And in just 10 minutes, I'll show you how to see it yourself. Annie Besant and Charles Leadbeater claimed they could watch anger transform into red projectiles floating through the air. They said jealousy creates specific green patterns around your head. Love generates rose-colored shields that protect the people you care about. This wasn't mystical speculation. They treated consciousness like a chemistry experiment, creating the first systematic map of what human emotions look like when they become visible. Here's what makes this extraordinary. Modern neuroscience now proves that your brain generates electromagnetic fields extending several feet beyond your body. These fields change color and pattern based on your emotional state. Scientists can detect what you're feeling using sensors placed across the room. The Victorians may have been observing the same phenomenon with their enhanced perception. Tonight, you'll discover their revolutionary color coding system that maps every human emotion. You'll see how modern brain imaging validates their century-old observations. And you'll learn the exact technique they used to develop this extraordinary ability, a technique you can try in your own home. Meet the Cambridge scholars who risked everything to map the invisible landscape of human consciousness and accidentally predicted modern neuroscience. Picture this: you're in a heated argument with someone you love. According to Besant and Leadbeater, your anger isn't just internal, it's creating red projectiles in the air around you, potentially harming the person you care about. They claimed they could watch this happening in real time, documenting the exact moment when emotions become visible energy. Meet Annie Besant and Charles Leadbeater. These names might sound unfamiliar now, but in their time they were intellectual giants. Besant had already made her mark as a fierce social reformer, fighting for women's rights and workers' conditions. She was a respected public speaker who commanded audiences across England, debating theology with bishops and economics with parliament members. Leadbeater was a Cambridge-educated Anglican priest whose theological writings influenced thousands. He brought decades of systematic scholarly training to their investigation. These weren't fringe mystics operating from the shadows. They were established thinkers who put their reputations on the line for something that challenged everything science believed about consciousness. But here's what modern research reveals. Scientists can now detect your emotional state using electromagnetic sensors placed several feet away from your body. Advanced magnetoencephalography machines visualize how different emotions create distinct electromagnetic signatures. Your brain generates measurable energy fields that extend beyond your skull, and these fields change pattern and intensity based on what you're thinking and feeling. The equipment picks up electromagnetic patterns that shift with every thought. Anger creates one type of signature, love creates another. Different emotions broadcast themselves as organized energy patterns that sophisticated instruments can detect and map. What if the Victorians were observing the same phenomenon? Their approach told a different story from other mystics of their era. They spent years in controlled environments, cross-referencing their observations, creating detailed illustrations of what they witnessed. They demanded reproducible results. Every observation was recorded, every pattern was measured, and every color was documented with scientific precision. They would sit in quiet rooms, observing volunteers as they experienced different emotions. They recorded the exact colors that appeared, the specific shapes that formed, the duration each pattern lasted. They compared notes and verified each other's observations, creating standardized measurements for phenomena that had never been measured before. What they discovered challenged everything science thought it knew about consciousness. But their real breakthrough came when they started mapping these observations into a revolutionary classification system, a complete color-coded map of human emotion. They discovered that hatred always appears as black, anger as red, and love as rose-pink. But their system goes much deeper than simple color matching. What they created was unprecedented in human history, a complete map of consciousness itself, where every emotion had its exact color, intensity, and pattern. Besant and Leadbeater found that the same emotion always produced the same color, regardless of who was experiencing it. A businessman in London and a farmer in India both generated identical red patterns when angry. The colors followed universal laws that transcended individual differences, creating what they called a systematic table of consciousness that worked with scientific precision. Here's how their spectrum works. The red spectrum of anger and passion. Black represented hatred and malice, the most destructive forces in human consciousness. From there, colors progressed through various shades of red to indicate different types of anger. Deep red signified brutal rage, while bright scarlet showed what they called noble indignation, anger motivated by justice rather than selfishness. Animal passion appeared as dark dragon's blood red, while murderous fury showed in jagged black and red patterns. The blue spectrum of devotion. This encompassed all forms of spiritual feeling, but with crucial distinctions. Selfish devotion appeared as muddy brown blue, religious feeling contaminated by personal desire. Pure spiritual devotion created brilliant sapphire, a rich, deep, clear blue, indicating a genuine spiritual connection. Divine union produced luminous light blue, a beautiful pale azure representing the highest form of spiritual consciousness. The yellow spectrum of intellect mental activity created various shades of yellow. Selfish intellect showed as dull yellow ochre, thinking focused on personal gain. Higher learning created clear gamboge, indicating intellectual pursuit for noble purposes. Spiritual wisdom produced pure luminous primrose yellow, the brightest and most refined form of intellectual power. But here's where it gets fascinating. The complexity revealed itself in mixed emotions. Colors blended and merged based on conflicting feelings, creating unique signatures for each person's mental state. A mixture of affection and devotion produced violet tints. Sympathy appeared as pale green. Deceit showed as brownish green flecked with gray. Intensity played a crucial role. Stronger emotions created brighter colors, while weak thoughts appeared pale and faded quickly. The brilliance measured the strength of feeling. A powerful surge of love created brilliant crimson, while mild affection produced soft rose tones. The duration also varied. Strong emotions maintained their patterns for hours, while passing thoughts flickered and disappeared within minutes. But colors were just the beginning. These thoughts also created specific shapes and forms that appeared to float in the space around each person's head. According to their observations, when you think about someone, a tiny floating image of that person appears in the air in front of you. This wasn't metaphorical. They claimed to watch these miniature replicas form and drift through what they called the mental atmosphere around people's heads. They documented 3 types of thought forms. The first type mimicked the thinker. When you imagined yourself somewhere else, a miniature version of you would appear and begin moving toward that location. The stronger your desire, the more vivid and persistent the form became. The second type copied other people or objects. Thinking about a friend produced a small version of that person that would eventually detach and move toward them, carrying your intention or emotion. The more detailed your mental image, the more accurate the replica appeared. The third category created entirely original patterns. Here's where it gets remarkable. A mother praying for her sick child created what they described as a delicate fern-like form that radiated protective energy and traveled to the child. Pure emotions generated geometric patterns that had never existed before. Spiraling golden forms for joy, drooping gray shapes for sadness, intricate crystalline structures for deep spiritual states. These weren't just colors floating randomly. They were actual structures that could be measured, tracked, and even interact with other people's thought forms. Loving thoughts created protective shields around the recipient. Angry thoughts became attacking projectiles that could harm the target. The researchers observed that a thought of love and protection creates a form that remains in the aura of the person thought of, acting as a shielding agent. They found that thoughts follow predictable laws, just like physics. The intensity of emotion determines the brightness and duration. The purity of intention affects whether the form helps or harms. A pure heart acted as the best protection against negative thought forms because the materials of a pure aura wouldn't be receptive to coarse vibrations. Their observations suggested that consciousness operates like a broadcasting system. Your thoughts don't just exist inside your head. They project outward, creating energy patterns that can influence both your immediate environment and distant people. These claims seemed impossible in 1901, but they had already found scientific precedent in the work of earlier researchers who discovered that vibrations create visible forms in physical matter. Ernst Chladni's experiments with sound provided the foundation for their revolutionary theory. Just as Chladni's brass plates, sprinkled with sand, formed geometric patterns under a violin bow, they observed thought vibrations carving shapes in the mental atmosphere. When sound waves hit the plates, sand arranged itself into intricate patterns, demonstrating the direct relationship between vibration and form. Modern cymatics confirms this principle. Vibrations organize matter into predictable patterns. Different frequencies create entirely different geometries. Higher frequencies generate more complex patterns. Lower frequencies create simpler forms. The amplitude determines how pronounced and stable the patterns become. The same frequency always produces the same pattern, measurable, replicable laws governing how energy creates form. Here's where it connects to consciousness. Modern neuroscience shows that different mental states produce distinct brainwave patterns. Alpha waves for relaxation, beta waves for focused thinking, gamma waves for heightened awareness. Each generates its own electromagnetic signature that extends beyond the skull. Advanced brain imaging reveals that similar thoughts create similar neural firing patterns across different individuals. When people think about love, the same brain regions activate in consistent patterns. When they experience anger, similar neural networks engage. This universality supports the Victorian claim that emotions produce consistent colors regardless of who experiences them. Research into bioelectromagnetism proves that your brain and heart generate electromagnetic fields extending several feet from your body. These fields change based on your thoughts and emotions, creating measurable signatures that sophisticated equipment can detect. Different emotional states produce distinct electromagnetic patterns, coherent signatures for positive emotions, chaotic patterns for negative ones. What modern science confirms is exactly what the Victorians described. Consciousness creates measurable energy patterns that extend beyond your physical body, following predictable laws based on the type and intensity of your mental activity. But here's the remarkable part. You don't need expensive equipment to explore these phenomena yourself. Using the same methodology as Besant and Leadbeater developed, you can explore these phenomena yourself. Tonight, you can become a consciousness researcher, following techniques that have been refined for over a century. Let's try this together right now. I want you to find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Dim the lights, but don't create complete darkness. You need enough light to see your surroundings, but not so much that it overwhelms your subtle perception. Sit comfortably with your back straight, facing a blank wall or empty space about 3 feet away. This distance matches where the Victorians observed most thought forms appearing. Now, practice the peripheral vision technique that enhances subtle perception. Fix your gaze on a point directly in front of you. While maintaining focus on that point, expand your awareness to include everything in your peripheral vision. Don't move your eyes, just broaden your attention to encompass the entire visual field. Here's the key part. Focus intensely on a specific emotion while observing the space around your head. Start with anger. Think about something that genuinely makes you angry. Feel the emotion building in your chest and spreading through your body. While maintaining that emotional state, observe the area around your head using peripheral vision. Notice any changes in temperature, density, or visual appearance. The key is maintaining both emotional focus and observational awareness simultaneously. You're looking for subtle shifts, changes in air pressure, hints of color, variations in the visual field that correspond to your emotional state. Try different emotions to notice variations. Shift from anger to love. Think about someone you care about deeply. Feel the warmth spreading through your chest. Again, observe the space around your head for changes. Move to fear, then joy, then sadness. Each emotion creates its own signature pattern. Keep a journal of your observations. Record the date, time, emotion practiced, and any changes you noticed. Write down even subtle impressions that might seem insignificant. The Victorians built their entire system through careful documentation of small, consistent observations. Some practitioners report sensing shifts in temperature or pressure. Others notice subtle color impressions or changes in air density. Whether you detect specific patterns or simply become more aware of the energy field around your body, you're engaging with the same consciousness principles the Victorians mapped. You're exploring the boundary between thought and physical reality, investigating how mental states influence the electromagnetic field around you. The Victorians may have been the first to systematically map consciousness as an electromagnetic phenomenon, predicting discoveries we're only now confirming through bioelectromagnetism research. Their color-coded system aligns with contemporary findings about brainwave frequencies and electromagnetic field generation. What they documented challenges our fundamental understanding of consciousness itself. If thoughts create measurable energy patterns that extend beyond your body, if emotions generate specific electromagnetic signatures that can influence other people, if consciousness operates like a broadcasting system with predictable laws, what does that mean for human potential? Every interaction becomes an energy exchange. Every emotion you feel creates patterns that affect the people around you. Every thought you think contributes to the mental atmosphere of your environment. You're not just experiencing consciousness, you're constantly creating and sharing it. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Victorians observed. Thoughts are things. They carry real power to influence and change. Your mental state doesn't just affect you, it generates organized energy patterns that extend into the space around you, potentially influencing everyone within your electromagnetic field. This isn't just fascinating science, it's a call to responsibility. If your thoughts create energy forms that can protect or harm others, if your emotions generate patterns that persist in the mental atmosphere, then consciousness becomes an ethical consideration. What kind of thought forms are you creating? What colors are you broadcasting into the world? Whether you call it theosophy or neuroscience, both point to one radical idea. Consciousness is far more powerful than we ever imagined. The gap between spiritual insight and scientific discovery keeps narrowing as technology catches up to intuitive understanding. Your thoughts might be creating the reality around you in ways that go beyond anything science has yet discovered. The Victorians gave us the map. Modern research is providing the proof. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Have you ever sensed these energy patterns? Felt the electromagnetic field around another person? Noticed how different emotions create different atmospheres in a room? Share your observations below. Let's explore this frontier of consciousness together. And if you want to dive deeper into the intersection of consciousness and science, subscribe for more investigations into the mysteries that bridge ancient wisdom and cutting-edge research. There's so much more to discover about the true nature of human awareness and the reality we're creating with every thought.